Right, we are preparing to live stream the meeting.
Okay.
We are setting up for your custom streaming service.
And anyone from A&T in the waiting room?
Not yet,
I'm
but
sorry,
hang
from
on. All right, we
MD.
are now we're live.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
No, no one from ENT yet.
MDE. Yeah. Okay. Well, good afternoon, everyone. Um, Welcome to the March 11th meeting of the Environment Subcommittee. We were going to go to 5. We'll get done what we can. We need to knock off at 5 because the Energy Subcommittee will be resuming their deliberations at 5 o'clock. Whatever we don't get done, we'll take up Friday after bill hearings. So hopefully we can get everything done, but if not. But anyway, so we are going to start with we're going to we're going to start our discussion with 3 bills that do not need appropriations approval. So we're going to start our discussion with HB 250, then go to HB 1071, and then go to HB 1116. And time, if there's any time permitting, we'll go to the other 2 bills. So with that, House Bill 250, and um, the Senate amended its version of House Bill 250, and we sent out SB, let's see, 108 that shows the amendments. So I wanted to ask Alex Butler, sorry to put you on the spot, but if you could uh, summarize what the amendments do to the amendments to SB 108, what they do, and how MDE feels about them, if you wouldn't mind.
Sure, Mr. Chair. Thank you very much for the opportunity. The amendments, very simply, the bill is 3 portions. It is water appropriation use permits, it is tidal wetlands, and it is waterway construction and dam safety. So it would extend administrative penalty authority to all 3 of those areas. The amendments remove tidal wetlands. That is no longer in the bill at all. It would also require the department to consider to use discretion, number 1, in using this authority, and also review for dam safety permits any good faith application for a loan from the private dam repair fund. There was some questions in the Senate whether we would use this authority prior to somebody receiving a yay or nay from the department on whether they were going to be able to receive some funding for any violation that we would be pursuing. So those are 2 portions of it, and then also it requires the department to use its discretion and then also examine any good faith efforts by the alleged violator to correct the action. That is implied within many of the other qualifying things in that list there. We have to consider whether this is a first-time violation, the nature, the impact, the environment, all sorts of things when determining what level of administrative penalties.
Okay, thanks. And I'm sorry, Kristen, I should have asked you to do this at the outset. Could you pull up SB 108?
Give me 1 second. I want to have I think I have the ag folder up.
Sure. And while Kristen's doing that, Alex, it sounds like MDE is fine with these amendments.
Yes, apologies. The second part of your question, yes, MDE is in support of these amendments.
Okay, great.
All right, it's coming up.
Okay.
I'll just scroll through it and you can see where Alex had updated on the changes. Let's see. So are these, is this the dam safety section? let's see. Um, where the department would have to also consider the degree of cooperation with the, consider the degree of cooperation with the department after being notified of the violation. These are the additional steps that the department must take before taking any civil or administrative action.
Right, and
And
I'm sorry, Kristen and Alex, I mean, these provisions apply to the whole bill, is that
this
right?
is for dam safety, I
Just
believe.
for dam safety. Oh,
Yeah.
right. It just say for private dam repair fund, right, for dam safety. Okay.
And then I think the rest is just when it cuts out all the provisions relating to the tidal wetlands provisions. So yeah, I think that's it. That's just you could see where I think this was a floor amendment maybe that this was taken out of the bill.
Right. So the
So the
so
bill
the
as yeah, go ahead.
go ahead. No, go ahead, Kristen.
I was just going to say that the bill, you know, what remains are the provisions that relate to the administrative penalty authority for dam safety and what was the other? Uh, lost my cheat sheet. Let me get the bill.
And Alex, feel free
There's
to.
one other program.
Water appropriation and
Water.
use.
Okay, thank you, Alex.
Yeah. So so the administrative authority for tidal wetlands violations is taking out. I mean, otherwise the existing penalties for violations under tidal wetlands are still there. It's just MD's authority to
They were
use administrative process is what's taken out. Is that right?
right. They would still have the authority that currently exists. It's just taking that part out of the bill. It's not changing any current law relating to tidal wetlands.
Right. Okay. Any questions about the amendments? I think we did a couple meetings ago, we did review House Bill 250 as originally introduced. So again, what we're taking a look at is the way the Senate has amended effectively its version of House Bill 250. And so we're considering whether we want to adopt the Senate amendments to conform so that House Bill 250 conforms to the way to Senate Bill 108 as amended. Any questions about what we've discussed? Delegate Grammer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Could we just articulate one more time the kind of infractions that this bill is aimed at?
Sure. Alex, you want to review those?
Sure, delegate. So, there are a number of small violations that we don't have, we would have to kick them to our Attorney General's office to pursue civil penalties for. That's not appropriate for many small violations. Some of those examples could be failure to renew a certain permit. It could be failure to complete your action plan. Some of these small things we want to nudge constituents on, but we don't want to take them through a court process. We don't want to force your constituents to have to hire attorneys and go to circuit court with us for some of those small violations that we think we could solve within a letter or two.
Thank you.
Okay. Thanks. Any other questions? So procedurally, Kristen, would our motion be any motion that we would want to consider be to conform House Bill 250 to Senate Bill 108 as amended? Okay.
Yes, that would work.
Okay. Would someone like to make that motion?
So moved, Madam Chair. Mr. Chair, so moved.
Okay.
Second.
Thank you. Second. Okay. Everyone clear on what we're doing? All right. All those in favor of conforming House Bill 250 to Senate Bill 108 as amended by the Senate, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Or abstentions? Okay, great. So House Bill 250 passes as amended to make it conform with Senate Bill 108. All right, so our next bill is House Bill 10 71, Delegate Foley's bill. So Kristen, if you could pull that up, and I guess we do have amendments for that, so we have a reprint.
Yes, I
Okay.
will pull that up. So I think Alex can correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure MDE came up with the sponsor on this bill. So I believe they worked on these amendments together. And what it is doing, it is altering a little bit of the types of regulations that MDE can adopt. It would relate specifically to agritourism. So the language now requires the department in consultation with the Department of Ag to define the term agritourism with respect to stormwater management, and to create a standard plan for temporary parking areas for agritourism, and will consider best management practices for stormwater management for agritourism, including the creation of a standard plan for temporary parking areas and the use of pasture, meadows, and cropland for treatment of stormwater runoff. Let's see what I'm in trouble scrolling. My screen's not working. And then there's a second piece that Montgomery County and Montgomery County Soil District will jointly, in consultation with MDE, review the county's current process for reviewing and approving stormwater management plans for agritourism. And that portion, we did receive a letter from Montgomery County delegation that they are in support of this amendment and the bill as amended.
Okay. Thanks, Kristen. Alex, anything you want to add?
No, not too much to add, just that the department is in support of the bill with those sponsor amendments.
Great. Okay. Delegate Guyton?
Thank you, sir. So currently, agritourism is exempt from other stormwater management programs, and we're putting one in place, or are we lessening the penalties for them? I'm just a little confused about the genesis of the bill, and I'm sorry, I think maybe I was doing another bill hearing at this time, because this one's not familiar to me.
Alex, you want to tackle that?
Basically,
Yeah,
yes, I'll let you handle it.
So, Madam Vice Chair, agritourism is not currently defined in relation to stormwater management practices. So this is us creating a specific term. We're going to work with the Department of Ag to try and figure out some specific policies. We are undergoing currently a comprehensive stormwater regulation update, and this just sort of syncs along with that.
Okay, thank you. That is exactly the information I was looking for. I appreciate it.
Okay, thank you. And just for everyone's benefit, remind us, Kristen, the fiscal note does not require appropriations approval, so we can prove it as amended. Okay. Any questions about the amendments?
Move the amendments, Mr. Chair.
Okay, is there a second? Is there a second? All right. All those in favor of the amendment say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The bill as amended.
Move as
So
amended,
moved.
Mr. Chair.
Okay, sounds like we got a second. All right. All those in favor of the bill as amended say aye.
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 Opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, bill passes as amended. Thank you.
I'll be a no, Mr. Chair.
Okay, all right, thank you, Delegate. Okay, the next bill is a Howard County local bill, House Bill 1116, dealing with illegal dumping. Kristen, if you could bring this up and remind us, no amendments on this one, is that right?
No amendments. I might not have this one readily available saved, so give me a second. 'Cause
Okay.
I just have to pull up the bill.
Okay.
Did you want me to look for it, or I mean, I know where.
Oh,
do you
I
bring it
mean,
up?
it's pretty straightforward. So maybe if you just want to review what it does and
Yeah, it's allowing Howard County to implement a surveillance system pilot program for illegal dumping, and it builds off of provisions in a law that already exist in Baltimore City.
All right, so it defines what a dumping site is. and then authorizes the type of surveillance that is already in place that Baltimore City is authorized to use. Is that correct?
Correct. I think there'll be certain areas designated as the authorized
sites.
surveillance area
Yeah.
under the pilot program.
Right. Okay. Any questions about this bill? This local bill? Anyone like to move it?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right. All those in favor of the bill, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, bill passes. Thank you. All right, so the two remaining bills are ones that for which we need appropriations approval on the fiscal note. We can consider them and take action with the proviso that it would be pending appropriations approval. But while since we still have 13 minutes left, why don't we go to House Bill 701, Protection of Vernal Pools, Delegate Hill's bill. And and Kristen, could you pull up the reprint?
Sure will. Sorry, I still not very quick at grabbing these
It's okay.
to share my screen. Okay, 701. All right. So the sponsor worked with both Department of the Environment and Department of Natural Resources on the bill. So the bill alters the impacts that the bill would have on MDE. And let's get to the substance here. It requires MDE in coordination with DNR to create and maintain a list of vernal pools in the state, and then establish criteria and procedures for identifying and including vernal pools on the list, including vernal pools identified by the department and carrying out its duties, and locations the department determines meet the definition of a vernal pool, and vernal pools identified by the Department of the Environment. So that basically when they maybe are out on their enforcement activities, if they were to, find a vernal pool, that's maybe one way that they would add it to their list. It authorizes using mapping or other scientific information to identify. So this is basically so the department doesn't have the Department of Natural Resources or Department of the Environment. They don't have the responsibility to go and map all of these. They can use mapping or other scientific information that's already out there to include vernal pools on their list. They can consult with stakeholder groups, and DNR would then provide for publication of the list of vernal pools on the department's website. MDE must designate staff to receive training in vernal pool identification. And that sets out the requirements for that training. All right, I'm having trouble scrolling again. We're getting down to when MDE is carrying out its responsibilities, non-tidal relating to non-tidal wetlands, the staff trained. Let's see, the Department of Environment must notify the Department of Natural Resources of the location for possible inclusion on the list. So this would be trained MDE personnel that would be making these identifications and then reaching out to DNR for possible inclusion on their list.
Okay. Thank you, Kristen. And Alex, it sounds like since MDE worked with the bill sponsor and DNR on these amendments, MDE is good with them.
Yeah, that's correct, Mr. Chair. Once again, we're support with these amendments.
Okay, Delegate Kramer?
Could we walk through the amendments one more time? I didn't catch that.
Sure, Kristen, if you don't mind.
So yeah, the bill would have come in establishing more of like a regulatory program of vernal pools. And so what it does instead is that it requires DNR and MDE to, once they identify these vernal pools, which are defined here in the bill, So these would be these seasonal, or so a vernal pool means a confined depression that has surface water for at least 2 consecutive months between November and May in a typical year. Experience decrease in water level to 6 inches or less between June and September. And then it goes on just to list all the types, the criteria for meeting the definition of a vernal pool. And so this bill would then have DNR and MDE identifying these pools to be on a list that would be then published by DNR.
So
We
can
could-
someone help me
ahead.
understand? Sorry, Mr. Chair, I
go
had
ahead.
a question. Thank you.
Sure.
So as I understand the nature of these pools, this is pretty broad. I mean, there are a lot of these. There could be thousands or tens of thousands of these. And I think these are important parts of the ecosystem, but it seems to be a pretty natural feature of any land that goes undisturbed for a period of time. Refresh me as to what we're kind of striking, the problem we're trying to fix here, because I mean, it seems to me to be very, very broad.
Well, Alex, I'll ask you maybe to respond to the delegate's question about, how ubiquitous these vernal pools are. But as Kristen said, the bill came in much broader, requiring MDE, among other things, to regulate these pools. Here, the responsibility is more limited to just identifying them and publishing a list. But Alex, do you want to?
And I think also it's in the identification of them would be in coordination or like during one of their other regulatory responsibilities, I believe. Like if they were out inspecting a site unrelated to vernal pools, that might be an opportunity where they might discover someone trained at MDE or DNR staff would then be able to add that if they saw one that qualified.
And this could be on public or private property.
Alex, is that right?
Yes. So, if I may, Mr. Chair, Chris, everything you've said so far is correct. The bill as drafted requires MDE to adopt comprehensive identification and protection measures for vernal pools. This would be a complicated expansion of non-tidal wetlands to the point of a new program. Sort of a core element of identifying vernal pools is identifying the habitat and the living wildlife within them. So mapping, I believe, would cost about $300,000 on its own for just the larger ones. I understand that sort of the small research team that was doing some of this work or something adjacent to this work for DNR, they may have either been limited or eliminated immediately. So we might, even if we had that money, we might not have an opportunity to do the mapping itself. But what we can do is reasonably build out a list as best we can. If we receive our folks that are in the field doing some of these, whether it be just site inspections for wetlands, we do a lot of delineation. So we receive an application and we have to go out and verify delineations. So in the course of our regular duties, if we happen upon a vernal pool, then we're able to document that and forward that to DNR for possible inclusion on the list. That's sort of the way that we can eliminate the fiscal note here, but sort of build out the list and the map as best we can.
And these are, for example, when I was a kid, we'd go up to Garrett County. There's a 4 by 6 foot indentation that naturally fills. Newts and salamanders are in there and you play with them. That would be one of these identified pools, but it could be depending upon when it filled and I guess water evaporated. Would that be correct?
Yes, they're subject to, they're essentially depressions in the land that fill up with water during certain times of the year and they provide that habitat. There's a definition inserted. We took the JCR definition, inserted that to the beginning of the bill. So it's not easy to identify for folks that aren't trained in this, but there are very specific qualifications that make it a classified vernal pool.
So there are likely tens of thousands of these in the state.
We don't have a reliable estimate, to be honest with you, Delegate. I'm not sure. It potentially could be. There are many.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and Kristen, remind me, even with the amendments, we still need appropriations approval. Is that right?
That's right. The subcommittee can act, but we just have to wait to see what the appropriation says for the fiscal side of things.
So we could give it provisional approval if we wanted
Yeah, and
to.
this one is one of the cases where it just came in with the big fiscal note because of it was creating this more broad regulatory program. So I
Right.
don't think they're expected to have an impact on the departments, but we still have to run it through since that original fiscal note will raise some flags.
Okay. Delegate Odom.
Yes, Mr. Chair. Now, I was looking when the question was going on about identifying these rental pools. In the definition, I see where I think it limits the size of it in terms of the maximum, but is there a minimum size of a vernal pool?
I'm going to go to the definition right now and look at this.
There's not much. Well, I don't see much that describes it other than
Let's see.
I think this
diminishes
would be to
6
be less than
inches,
5 acres
Right.
in size.
so that okay, so that's limiting the size of it to the maximum. But my question is there a minimum? It doesn't say anything about a minimum. Oh, I don't think so.
I don't think it says anything about a minimum. No.
Right.
Okay, so that's where I'm sort of lost to my imagination of how small it could be.
Okay. Well, good point. I mean, and well, let's see. No, it talks about a decrease in water level to 6 inches or less in typical year, but yeah, Delegate, to your point, it doesn't say what the minimum size, like in area,
Right.
has to be. So, I think we're not going to take any motion on this bill, especially since we have to run in a couple minutes. So, we'll take this up again on Friday, as well as the other bill, House Bill 1196. But Delegate Frazier Hidalgo, do you have your hand up?
Nope, I'm good.
You're good.
You
Okay.
answered my question, so I'm good.
Okay. All right. So we will hold this bill, take it up again. We'll meet again Friday after bill hearings. This bill and again Delegate Long's bill, HB 1196. So thanks everyone to the subcommittee. Thank you to MDE and